大家下午好，我是城市频道记者佳丽。我们今天来到的是大巴窑中心这里。今天呢，当选总统尚达曼呢在这里谢票，让我们来看看现场的情况。 我们看到这里其实聚集了非常多的公众哦，还有人排起长龙跟尚达曼拍照。这里的所有的人的秩序非常井然有序。尚达曼的夫人也在场和大家拍照。
Just take one picture.
各位巴士界的网民，大家下午好。我们现在在建屋局总部附近的大巴窑中心，尚达曼及夫人呢刚刚就莅临现场。我们现在看到现场呢，其实有许多的公众井然有序的排起长龙要。我们也发现，其实不少人呢都穿着酒红色或者红色的衣服到场。现在我们就看一下的情况吧。我们也看到留言区有许多的公众在留言哦，谢谢你们，也谢谢你们的点赞。
Hey, let's go over there.
谢谢给 N 竖起的大拇指。其他的公众，你们也可以在这里分享一下你们对我们国家的展望。
How we know he's gonna come? No, that's not the one person. You buy how? You buy
谢谢 Max Way 的留言。我们看到其实很多网民都非常积极的说到尚达曼当选民选总统，让世人看到新加坡。有很多人分享了之前如何巧遇当选总统和他的夫人。其他公众，你们也可以继续点赞、留言、分享出去。
foto. Coba tingin foto.
刚刚有网民说，就是听不到刚刚我们念的这个留言。刚刚 Max Way 就留言到说，尚达曼当选总统，让世人看到新加坡是真正不分种族、和谐共处的国家。其他网民你们也可以留言，谢谢。
Just look at the number of headphones and cameras rising per picture. How did you try to look at this way? This way, this way. Go.
尚达曼即将会走到另一边跟媒体说话了，请大家继续留意。我们看到现场气氛很高昂，这里聚集的支持，我相信已经超过尚达曼即将会跟媒体说话了，所以让我们继续留意下去。请大家稍等一下。我们看到大家非常的热情哦。
Very good. Good. How are you feeling? I'm feeling good.
Were you surprised by the margin of your victory?
I was surprised by the margin of victory. I hadn't expected such remarkable unity, and I think it's a real positive for Singapore. In fact, walking around today, several hawker centres, people were congratulating me. I was actually congratulating them. Congratulating them for just that sense of unity that Singaporeans want. It would otherwise not have been possible for me to have had that margin. And I do believe very strongly that it is an expression of hope, an expression of the desire for an optimistic future, and an expression of wanting to work together, including in new ways, in society, with government, civil society, just wanting to work together in new ways to develop a culture of respect, to help Singapore stand tall in the world, even as a small country, and of course to make sure that we have sound financial governance. So I think Singaporeans have been very sensible in the way they voted, and I think we all have to congratulate ourselves. It's really not congratulating me, but congratulating ourselves for this vote in our future. Yes.
Now with your presidency starting in 2 weeks' time, so how do you intend to keep or
I will have to review them and also go with the advice of Cabinet as to what's in Singapore's interest. Some of them are clearly in Singapore's interest. Some are midstream and it's good to carry on. So that's something to be evaluated. From the very start, stated that it's a plus for Singapore that I come with some international standing and networks around the world, which we should try to use.
What are some of your plans when you enter office? Do you have any concrete plans to take your
Well, let's wait for me to take office first. I'm looking forward to meeting President Halimah in the first instance and getting advice from her. She has served Singapore remarkably well. I admire her equanimity, her poise, and the dignity with which she's held the presidency. And one of the first things I want to do is to sit down with her and get her thoughts and advice, or coming from the last 6 years. I'm not going to rush the process, but I'm very serious about wanting to fulfill the mandate that's been given to me by the people. I haven't honestly had a lot of time to think about my plans in the next 2 weeks. I've been focused very much on trying my very best in this election campaign and building on, of course, everything I've been doing before that. So I haven't thought very hard about my day-to-day schedule for the next 2 weeks, but I'm certainly looking forward to it. Looking forward first to attending the ceremony to mark President Halima's end of term on the 13th, and then on the 14th, of course, when I'm sworn in. It's been a very smooth process, and I think there'll be a lot of lessons coming out of yesterday's vote. I spoke about some of them yesterday, including the fact that this is another milestone in the way we are evolving in how we look at race. Always a factor, but not the only factor. I think it's also interesting that Singaporeans, whom I believe want a non-partisan president, and that's in fact something which I have been advocating all along. They do not think that having been a member of a political party or even being a member of cabinet should diminish a person's ability to be non-partisan. It all depends on the individual, the character of the person, the reputation of the person, and the ability to reach across all the boundaries you can think of in Singapore. And that's always been my orientation. So I think it's a very interesting lesson that Singaporeans do not think that my political service all these years was a disadvantage. As I've explained in my 2 TV broadcasts, that's been a huge source of strength for me. My on-the-ground experience, my policy-making experience, and of course my international experience. It's been a huge source of strength, and it wouldn't have come about if I hadn't spent 22 years in politics. That's for sure. It's instructive that even at the very outset, when Mr. Lee Kuan Yew spoke about the whole concept of needing an elected presidency decades ago, in that very same speech, he opined that it would be ideal if the person who fulfilled that role of acting as a check on government was a former minister who really knew a lot about the budget. And he said it for a reason, because these can be very complex matters. It's not a simple matter of having a key in your hand and deciding whether you turn it or not turn it. You've got to understand the challenges Singapore faces. You've got to understand the revenue options. You've got to understand the spending priorities, both in normal times when we need to deal with long-term crisis, as well as in crisis times. And understanding the ins and outs of the government budget and the budgets of the other public agencies concerned is invaluable knowledge and experience. So I think Singaporeans have been very sensible in all of this. They judge the person. They don't hold it against you because you've been a member of the cabinet or a member of a political party. And they may even think it's a plus because you've got knowledge, experience, and you come armed with the confidence of knowing that you'll be able to judge on the basis of real knowledge. But ultimately, the president has to be non-partisan. That's a precondition. So non-partisan, working with government, working with civil society and all the other groups that are trying to make Singapore a better society. That's the right combination we need. Good. I don't think so. As I've explained, I'm not going to change my personality and my style. I intend to be an active president. Oh, I will serve them to the fullest. I'll serve them to the fullest. It's to be expected in any election. Like I say, I did not expect such a high degree of endorsement, which also means that there was a fair number of people who would normally not vote in favor of the ruling party, who decided that this was not a political election, this was not a general election, and they decided to vote for me. And I think that's also very encouraging.
First thing that was on your mind this morning when you woke up?
What was?
First thing on your mind this morning when you first woke up?
Well, I don't think there was anything unusual or original on my mind. I mean, I have a routine when I wake up. I don't need to take you through the domestic details of what I do when I wake up, but there was nothing, no sudden flash of brilliance that passed through my mind. Sorry, say again? No, I was surprised it was as high as 70%. I did not have such high expectations, which is why I really feel that congratulations are in order to Singaporeans, because this was a vote for an optimistic future, it was a vote for unity, it was actually a vote for Singaporeans. I really believe that.
Have you spoken to Mr. Tan Kim Lian's after the results?
Yes, I mean, I spoke, in fact, I called up Mr. Ng Kok Song before I spoke to the media yesterday. In fact, the moment I got the results based on the sample numbers, I spoke to Mr. Ng Kok Song. I tried to get Mr. Tan Kim Lian, but his number was busy. I tried a few times. And subsequently, we have been on messages with each other. We have been on very convivial messages with each other.
In your next term of presidency, especially the overseas transition leadership coming up in life, how do you see the role of the president in this transition?
Well, I've spoken about that before, because that was also one of the reasons why I decided to put myself forward for the presidential elections. I feel we're going through a very important transition, and as I mentioned, it's not going to be a matter of clearing one hurdle where there's a change in political leadership. It's actually a new era that we've entered. Singapore society is changing, Singapore politics is changing, and I think the relationship between the President and the Prime Minister, the new Prime Minister, should be a constructive one. And I believe we can make that work.
What's
We
the
can make
relationship
that work.
with
It's a relationship of trust. It will be a different relationship from before because we're no longer cabinet colleagues. But it will be a relationship of trust and mutual respect. As you know, I have a high regard for him. And I believe that we will have a very constructive relationship. And you have to remember, as I've said before as well, that when it comes to the international role of the government, the President has to work together with government. The President is not a solo operator. The President represents Singapore, and it's critical that the President and the government have good relations and are working on as one.
Mr. Taman, so what do you think worked with your campaign or strategy?
Well, I did what I've always been doing, which is interacting with people in my usual way, not changing my personality, not changing who I was. I did run on the fact that I had a track record for a long time that was well known, not just in Jurong but outside. I had a traditional strategy, if you like. I did learn a fair bit about the social media as someone who is a complete novice before this campaign. I mean, a complete novice, I would say, and I became quite active at it. But I don't think it was any one thing. I have to be honest, I have a feel for ordinary Singaporeans, what they're looking for, what they listen to, and what they feel. And that has helped me in all my interactions and in my style of campaigning. I do not like a style of frenzy during 9 days. I prefer to just make it a continuation of what I've always been. And you've got to be authentic to yourself. So that's all I could say, really. Thank you. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thanks everyone. Thank you. Sorry.
大世界的网民，大家好，谢谢大家的观看。当选总统尚达曼呢，现在已经移步离开大巴窑中心。谢谢大家，请留意巴世界新闻网，再见。